The Board of Electrolysis and Body Art Practitioners meeting is convened at 9:13 a.m. on February 23rd, 2026. This meeting is being held in person and through Zoom video conference and is being recorded. The recording will be posted to the internet for public viewing. I will now call roll. Audrey Jones.
She is not here today, Chair, and you don't have to call her name again.
Roxana Tyson.
Present.
Nathan Morelli.
Here.
John Dickerson.
We're unsure of John this morning.
And Brian Gooden.
I'm here.
Did you call Rebecca and yourself, Chair?
I'd call Paul Thomas present and Rebecca Flom.
Present.
Okay. Members, when you wish to speak, please state your last name for the record. Board members are asked to not use the chat feature during meetings.
You got it?
Yep, I think so.
The Health Licensing Office asks that individuals attending through Zoom keep their phones muted and cameras off during the entire meeting or until they are given an opportunity to comment during the public and interested parties' feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Public comment is limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what the board has statutory authority to regulate. Public members wishing to speak, please sign in on the roster sheet available in the room or email Josh Page at Josh and provide your first and last name. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board business.
Chair, this is Bob Bothwell here at HLO. We're going to make one short adjustment on that. Is if they need to contact somebody here in the room, it'll be Chrissy, KRISSY .Pickett, PICKETT at OHA.Oregon.gov. Josh is off today. Okay. Chair and members of the board, this is Bob Bothwell, and we've called to order. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I don't think we have any changes today, so if we can get a board member other than Paul to make a motion to approve the agenda and then a second.
This is Nathan Morelli. I move to approve the agenda.
Brian Gooden, then move to second.
Chair, if you'd be so kind as to do roll call for approval of the agenda.
Approval agenda, Paul Thomas, myself, I approve. Roxana Tyson.
I approve.
Nathan Morelli.
Here. I approve.
John Dickerson. Rebecca Flom.
Approve.
And Brian Gooden.
I approve.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. This is Bob. Next item on the agenda, if we're ready to move on, is the director's report. And the first item on that report is the stakeholders and interested parties. And Chrissy will provide us an update.
Good morning, this is Chrissy. So today I'm going to talk to you about board membership. And then as a friendly reminder, this is the beginning of a new year, so we do have more training to consider as a board member. Some are term, some are per annual. So if you have any questions on how to get into Workday, please get in touch with me, Chrissy Pickett, and I will help you get logged into your Workday and get those trainings done before the end of the year. So for board membership, we currently have Audrey Jones in her second term. She cannot reappoint and expires in March of 2029. We have Paul Thomas in his first term, expires in June of 2027 and can reappoint. Roxana Tyson in her first term, expires in March of 2029, can reappoint. Nathan Morale in his first term, expires in March of 2027 and can reappoint. John Dickerson in his first term, expires in April 2027 and can reappoint. Rebecca Flom in her first term, expires in June of 2029, can reappoint. And we have Brian Gooden in his first term, expires in June of 2028 and can reappoint. Does anyone have questions?
Excellent. So this is Bob again. Thank you, Chrissy. And moving on, if anybody's following on their computer, we're looking at slide 11. Adjust mine. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay, so we are on slide 11. And licenses issued for tattoo artists. We are currently in fiscal year 2026, and as of quarter 3 of 2026, we have issued 51 new licenses. And standard body piercing and specialty level piercing in quarter 3 of 2026, we've issued 1. Earlobe piercing in the same quarter of fiscal year 26, we have issued 3. Electrologists, quarter 3 of fiscal year 2026, we've issued 1. Licenses renewed in the same time frame, we've had 172 on paper, or excuse me, 172 online, 54 on paper. Standard body piercing, 10 online, 2 on paper. We're on slide 16, moving to slide 17, for those of you following along. Earlobe piercing techs, we've issued 2 in quarter 3 of 2026. And electrologists, I'm sorry, not issued, renewed. And for electrologists, in quarter 3 of 2026, we have issued renewed 6. And licenses by age and gender. This is a young and upcoming profession. So you'll see on slide 19 that between 26 and 33, we're about 5, 7, almost 900 licensees in that age range. Licensing trends for body art facility, we are about 1,045. That's as of quarter 3 of 2026. Earlobe piercing techs have taken a bit of a dip from 110 in quarter 1 to 122 in quarter, or excuse me, 102 in quarter 2 of 2026, and down currently at about 92 in quarter 3. Specialty body piercing 1 and 2, we are at an average of 20 in quarter 3. And on slide 23 for electrologists, they have had an increase, currently standing at about 147, and that's as of quarter 3 of 2026. Tattoo artists, we are at about 2,759 on average. Moving on to slide 25, standard body piercing, and we are at 94. And your financials are pretty good. Got a beginning cash balance for fiscal year 2026, which began in July, at the July 1 of 2025. We had 1,100,022,571. Revenues of 268,204. Expenditures of 297,548. Net operations of 29,343, with an ending cash balance of $1,093,227. That was as of January 22 of 2026. Any questions on the report? Okay. And Trampus, are you out there?
He's on.
I am.
Good morning. You're
Good
ready
morning, everybody. Let me see if everything's going to work for me. All right. So my name is Trampus. I'm here to do the regulatory report. I'm the regulatory manager, if anybody doesn't already know. So the regulatory report, it looks a little different this time. It's split up onto a couple of pages. So the first page you can see, I believe it's on slide 28 of the regulatory report, is the open cases. So we have 3 biennium on this report: 2023, 2025, and 2027. The 2027 biennium is the one we're currently in. So I think we're about 8 months into it. So we're not quite halfway through it.
Trampus, you're hanging
so
up
you
on
see the 2023 biennium. There are a couple of biennium. I think a couple of those. Hold on. I'm going to disconnect it. Hello? Is
Yeah, we
that
can hear
better?
you.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So it looks like the regulatory report. So the first page, like I said, shows the open cases. The next page shows the closed cases. So you can see kind of a breakdown of all of the cases that were actually closed. The third page gives you an overview of all of the complaints that were open for that time frame. So that puts it into perspective, what's open versus what's closed. So the 2023 biennium, we had 55 cases come in, and all but 6 are closed. We have the 2025 biennium, we had 85 cases come in, and 33 of those 85 are already closed. And then in the 2027 biennium, you can see we've actually had 55 come in already, and we're only about 8 months in. So I think that one of the things you're going to see about this, and one of the things I've been actually talking to all the boards about, is 2025. We had a really was a really kind of big year. Previous to that, overall for the entire agency, we had received in the neighborhood of about 300 complaints per year. 2025, we received 455 complaints. So just there, you can see that we had quite an increase of the number of complaints in 2025. And it's kind of bearing out that we're kind of in that same trend now. As you can see, for the 2027 biennium, we're 8 months in, not even halfway through. And we've already received as many complaints as we did the whole 2-year period for 2023. So, like I said, I don't know if this is going to be a trend that's going to continue, or if it's just a bump. Every once in a while, we get a bump that that kind of changes the number of complaints. But right now, we actually are in for a pretty high volume of complaints just overall in the agency, and I think that this board is getting their fair share of that bump. So other things that are kind of going on with regulatory, this board does a lot of inspections, and last year we did in the neighborhood of 1,300, about 1,350 inspections, something like that. So, beyond just the complaints that we're processing, we're also out there doing a lot of inspections too for this group. So Does anybody have any questions about regulatory or about investigations or complaints or anything like that they wanted to talk about? No? Okay.
No.
Well, thank you, everybody. Well, I'll see you all again in executive session.
Thanks, Travis. All right. Chair, are you with us still?
Reading the next script.
Yeah, we're going to move into executive session.
The Board of Electrolysis and Body Art Practitioners will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602F and ORS 192.3559A and ORS 40.225 for the purpose of information exempt from public disclosure at 9:30 a.m. on February 23rd, 2026. Representatives of the news media shall be allowed to attend the executive session. Audience members attending through Zoom will now be moved to a separate breakout room, and audience members attending in person are asked to leave the room both for the duration of executive session. Those authorized to attend the executive session, please continue to keep your phone muted and camera off. Are there any representatives of the news media on Zoom?
Hello, I'm on Zoom. I'm from OPB.
Okay. All
Who's that?
This is Francisca Benitez.
Hello. Okay. Representatives of news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. All other audience members of the public will be moved into a separate breakout room for the duration of the executive session. We will return to open session before taking any final action or making any final decisions. And estimated time for this?
John Tucker, are you with us?
I am.
How long do you think this will take?
I would think it shouldn't take more than 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
The Board of Electrolysis and Body Art Practitioners will now exit executive session and reconvening open session at 10 a.m. No final decisions were made and no votes were taken in executive session. The public will be moved from the breakout room back into the meeting, and representatives of the media may once again report on all board discussions and actions.
And a roll call, please.
Yes, get right to that. Paul Thomas, present. Roxana Tyson.
Present.
Nathan Morelli.
Present.
John Dickerson.
Not here yet.
Okay. Rebecca Flom
Present.
and Brian Gooden.
Present.
John, I need to go first. He has to acknowledge himself.
He did. Okay, thank you, Chair.
John.
John.
He did, yeah, he confirmed.
Oh,
Is
he's
he here?
okay.
John, how do you confirm?
Oh, sorry, not John Dickerson. I thought you said Brian, my bad.
Okay,
So
we're trying to get it together here in the boardroom, Chair. Sorry about that.
we're missing John Dickerson at this time.
Yes.
We can't continue without him unless you want to give him a second to rejoin.
No,
He never showed up.
joined.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, next item on the agenda, if everybody's ready to move forward, is the policy report. And that today will be given by Derek Foltz.
Hi, everybody. My name is Derek Foltz. I'm the qualification analyst at the Health Licensing Office. Before you guys is a summary. We did a review of the current tattoo course of study. We held a committee and that committee provided recommendations. You will see on that statement the areas that we really wanted to focus on, the minimum requirements for theory and practical hours, the minimum number of practical procedures, the areas of study for specifically related to theory hours, and supervision requirements. So we held two meetings, one on December 8th and one on December 15th. And on page 35 5 of the material, you will see the recommendations that were made by the committee. There were a few areas that a specific number was not decided on. So when the board is ready, we will need to go through that information and come up with specifics. But with the material in front of you, hopefully you all had a chance to review it. We just wanted to see how the board would like to continue. Now, we did sort of 2 rounds of reviews. The first one you will see in front of you, and that's the course of study that's in the material that focused specifically on the things I just mentioned. And then after we held those two committee meetings, there seemed to be some rumblings about potentially addressing cosmetic and illustrative tattooing. Here at HLO, we decided that one option that we could probably implement rather quickly would be to generalize the curriculum and make it available so both individuals or both schools that were teaching cosmetic or illustrative tattoo could sort of use the same curriculum and go from there. But the feedback I got from the committee was not consistent. We kind of got it all over the place. So that's part of the reason why we don't have a more finalized draft for you guys to review. But one of the things that we are looking for from you guys is how we want to move forward today with the curriculum. I just want to let you all know that you do not have to make any final decisions today. If the board wants more time to review things, we can certainly set up an additional meeting at some point and talk about it at a later date. So anyone out there? Oh,
This
go
is
ahead.
Roxana Tyson. I reviewed all the material. I wasn't part of the committee. Being an artist that primarily does permanent cosmetics, I do think that we need some sort of standard to make sure people are safe to perform procedures on eyes, brows, and lips once they have their tattooing license. And just a thought that I had in reviewing the standards and what we have in place is I noticed that we have a separate section for earlobe piercing than we do for body piercing. And I thought perhaps we could create something where we have a different, curriculum or standard for tattooing the face as opposed to the body, just so that we could have an extra protection for, the eyes, mostly.
Okay. Is there anybody else that has any recommendations on how they'd like to move forward today?
This is Nathan Morelli. I think that's a great start.
So Roxana, just to clarify, you're suggesting adding a section to the current course of study, or would you like to create a separate course of study?
I'm not sure what would be best. I don't know the proper words to use, but I just kind of use the example of the difference between the earlobe and the body piercing. So what would you call that? Is that
This is Ann. Are you talking about actual separate license?
Those are separate licenses.
Yeah, those are separate licenses.
Yeah.
This is Ann. If it's helpful, remember, we live in statute. We are creatures of statute. Even if we want to do something, what we can and can't do is often defined in statute. Your board has a separate definition for body piercing, a separate definition for earlobe piercing, and that is what allows them to have separate licenses. Tattooing is only singularly defined, which is means the process by which a live human being is marked or colored by insertion of non-toxic dyes or pigment to form indelible marks for ornamentation or decoration. You have one definition. It doesn't matter what what area of interest that you're focusing on, but you have one definition that allows you the flexibility to go in any direction. So I don't think you have the statutory authority in that area to create a separate license. So with that said, because what you have now allows flexibility. Brian?
Hi, Brian Gooden, member. So just to make sure I'm understanding what the gentleman from the state was saying, there was maybe insufficient information from the committee held to make any recommendations around cosmetic tattooing. Is that a fair paraphrasing?
Yes.
And so the decision was to address other aspects of tattooing, but not that one for lack of input from the committees.
Correct.
Apologies, I see I spoke over you there. I think I have a little lag, but thank you for that answer. I just want to make sure I heard clearly. And then just in case Roxana is having sound problems, oh, maybe she's dropped off. Do we need to wait?
Did we lose Roxana?
It looks like it. Should I hold my comment?
Have her on here. Okay, she hasn't joined us. Do we want to ask Rebecca what she wants, or do you want me to? We need to address the hours too, right?
Yes.
Rebecca, this is Anne. You have thoughts?
Hi, yeah, this is Rebecca Ploum. I was in the committee meeting, so I can hopefully help clarify what Roxana was saying, and I can wait for her to come back or not. But I do know that a lot of the issues coming up were between cosmetic and artistic tattooing were in the curriculum, and the kinds of things that would be required to be taught, because there are some things that you need to learn as an artistic art tattooer that not necessarily you would want to do as a cosmetic tattooer. So it's possible a suggestion might be like two parallel curricula within the license, one for artistic path, one for cosmetic path. There was not a single suggestion that everyone agreed on, but it definitely seems like a challenge with updating the curriculum to be to really cover all of the things that artistic tattooers need to do, does end up forcing cosmetic tattooers to learn things that are not relevant to what they do.
This is Derek. Question for the board. Does the board feel that this is a big enough of a concern that we need to address it, or do we want to keep the curriculum kind of as is with the changes made by the committee?
I mean, I think it's something to probably be addressed. Paul Thomas.
Sorry, Paul, I couldn't hear you. You said it should be addressed?
Yeah. Because I'm a tattoo artist and a piercer, and I know with piercing we have specialty licenses that we get in addition to our base license for different types of piercings. It would seem like at this point, with the amount of specialization with illustrative versus cosmetic tattooing, perhaps having two pathways that lead to different amendments to the license to say what you can and can't do would be a good idea. Because I think learning a bunch of things you'll never need or use, your chosen career path seems like a waste of everybody's time and energy, versus if we're only going to be doing illustrative, you should be more focused on that. And if you're only doing cosmetic, you should definitely be more focused on the cosmetic. So I think that is something that should probably be addressed, because I've seen cosmetic tattooists doing illustrative tattoos that they do not know how to do, and vice versa.
Sammy?
Yeah, Derek, when you first spoke, can you just highlight for me again that after the committee met, you resent them out some information that generalized some of those areas, like doing like theme tattooing or tribal banding, and you generalize those areas of the curriculum. Can you just highlight that for me one more time, make sure I understood it correctly?
Yeah, I actually didn't make any changes to the curriculum based on the aesthetic versus illustrative tattooing. I got some feedback from the committee, but like I said, since it was kind of all over the place, I didn't really have a solid idea of how to move forward on that. So that's kind of why we were here, getting advice from the board.
Got it.
Yeah, and this is Anne. My understanding also, there were some highlighted areas on the materials that Derek sent out. There was some disagreement on there were some parts of disagreement on the number of procedures, right?
Yes.
The practical, that as well as it wasn't just the cosmetic versus aesthetic. There was no consensus on a few other areas, if you want to ponder that as well. Do you want to highlight those?
Yeah.
Derek?
So the areas that the committee could not fully agree on were the increase in the number of practical procedures. There were some individuals on the committee that wanted to increase it quite a bit. Others wanted to keep it the same. Compromise that they came to was somewhere between 75 and 100 practical procedures, which would be an increase from the current 50. Also in connection with that would be the total number of practical hours, and that again will be dependent on the total number of practical procedures that the board decides. Those are the two main areas that we could not come to a consensus on. So does the board, this is Derek, does the board feel that we should gather more information regarding cosmetic versus illustrative tattooing curriculums and then bring it back to the board for a decision?
This is Paul Thomas. I think that might be a good idea, just because if we're not getting consensus yet, it means we don't have the information to make one.
Okay. So how do you guys feel about me holding another committee? It should be the same individuals that reviewed it already, but getting them together again and trying to work those things out.
This is Rebecca Plum. I think that's a good idea. It seems like we don't really have a great specific path forward. So narrowing things down could probably be very helpful.
Chair, this is Bob, to Derek and to the board. Do you have questions that you have in your mind that you would like answered? So he can kind of tailor the meeting to those questions as well.
Paul Thomas, I have two. So one about the required number of procedures versus required number of hours. I've been tattooing licensed since 2007, and I would definitely personally notice that no one's doing 53-hour procedures when they first start tattooing. That's just not practical. That's not how it works. So I think the number of procedures does need to be looked at and raised, but I'm not sure if we need to raise the number of practical hours required, but definitely the number of procedures seems like unrealistic how it is currently written. And then I've been an illustrative tattooist for the same length of time, and I have never gotten into or been interested in or wanted to do cosmetics at all. And to have to learn all that information that I'll never use seems pointless, and the same as someone that's a cosmetic artist learning a bunch of illustrative skill sets seems like a waste of everybody's time. So I think that we should definitely look at both the number of procedures and then if there's a way to have two different paths for licensing cosmetics versus illustrative.
Roxana Tyson, I agree. And I also read the letter. There was a letter submitted by somebody, I forget the lady's name, but that owned the school. And she made some very valid points as far as her concerns with the curriculum changes. And so I just want to say that I read that letter, and I think that the points that she made were valid and should be considered.
Go ahead, Ann.
Hi, this is Ann. As the analyst for the board, I've worked with other boards where no one is going to agree. Everyone has a very strong opinion on how many hours, how many things. So I have two thoughts for you. One would be, remember, this is not ceiling, it's the floor, right? The bare minimum people need to do in order for public safety. This is not quality. This is not getting like the best tattoo ever. This is making sure you don't get an infection, okay? So if we can think about that when it comes to procedures. The other thing is, would the board be open to the idea of, when you start out as a tattoo artist and you're just learning the profession, you might think you want to get into illustrative and then you get into more cosmetic. Would it make sense, as college curriculum does, that everyone has to take certain things? Everyone has to cover the safety, sanitation, the infection control, that kind of thing. And then perhaps split the curriculum at the end, if you wanted to, and get that area of specialty. Say, okay, everyone has to say, just as an example, like 300 hours. Everyone has to have basic theory for 250, and then you can choose your last 50. If you want to go illustrative for 50 or cosmetic tattoo 50, but everyone gets the same basic general information.
Paul Thomas, that sounds quite reasonable to me.
Rebecca Flam, I agree.
Nathan Morelli, I second that. That sounds like a proper trade school.
This is Sammy, and some of my boards is called discretionary hours.
Yes,
So it's a
Sammy,
thing.
exactly.
It's a thing.
Exactly. Well, when you go to school, you know, if you're going to get a bachelor's degree, everybody has to have basic things. And then as you move up the ladder, you move into your major and your minor, right? Your area of concentration. But everyone should have basic safety, sanitation, be safe, regardless of what you're doing. So if you're okay with that, that's certainly something that I can explore with Derek. And again, I'm just trying to flesh information out, because when you get in a committee, people who join committees are extremely passionate. They're A+ players. We all know board members are the same way. So sometimes getting them to that place of, you may do it differently, but can you live with it? Right? That's kind of where we have to get to people. Is this enough for safety, sanitation, but also reasonable for somebody starting out? Thank you. Brian?
Hi, Brian Gooden, member. Thanks for that background. I wanted to make a quick comment, and then I had a follow-up for the Derek, the gentleman from the state. As the infection control nurse on the board, I wanted to point out that yes, infection is a primary concern, but I think also the level of harm to the public on just the tattoo being done incorrectly and scarification and pain for, you know, that was avoidable. And I think there's a little bit of stigma around the true risk that we're facing in a tattoo setting. So I just like to kind of comment that we're protecting the public also from just, you know, services that weren't rendered by a proper artist. So with that being said, I think I don't really have a strong opinion on number of curriculum hours. I'm not a licensed artist. I just thought I'd comment on the infection risk being one of the things we're looking to protect our public from. In that same line of questioning, Derek, if you don't mind, I think you said that if you were to call a work group together to kind of ask more questions around cosmetic art, that it would be the same constituency as the previous work groups. So I'm just wondering if you can comment on whether you know to what extent the folks on that work group have experience in cosmetic tattooing or artistry, or whether we need to consider getting a more representative group if we're going to ask them specific questions to that type of work.
Yeah, if you look, this is Derek, on, I think it's the second page of the memo, I think page 34, it does have a breakdown of people on the committee. We actually did get a pretty good group of both cosmetic and illustrative tattooers. But if the board feels that we need to pump it up a little bit, we can do some more outreach before we hold another committee meeting.
Oh, good. As long as it feels like it's got representation, because I only see one on the list that has the word esthetician. So I wasn't sure if there was a really differentiation on tattoo artist is, you know, non-differentiating to me as not a licensee.
This is Rebecca Flam. I think that is almost exactly the problem, is that we don't have a really good definition of the two different things. And so trying to have a representative sample of each is a little bit difficult, just to name.
And I guess to comment with the rest of my colleagues, we also have discretionary credits in nursing school. I think that sounds the easiest in the curriculum to say, and then you must do X many hours of any of these buckets. So I support the statements previous on that comment as well. Thanks.
This is Roxana Tyson. I'm going to change locations because I'm not getting good reception here, but I am still present in the meeting. I just wanted to say that. I seem to be missing out on a couple. My phone is cutting out, so I'm going to just change locations. It'd take me about 5 minutes, but I am still here. Thank you.
So the public that have their hands up, we're not going to call on you until we move into public interested parties feedback, which is going to be coming up here. So yeah, this is the board discussion, and y'all be able to talk here in a little bit.
Okay, so just to summarize for Derek, The board direction in the area, and it's called course of study, and one of Derek's goals was to move it toward the word curriculum because that more accurately reflects the study areas. And just so that you know, the end state of this, if you decide to make changes, we would have to go into rulemaking because the curriculum / course of study is listed in rule currently, the number of hours and things like that. So we would have a secondary area of rulemaking where it would have to go out for public comment. We would have feedback. We'd have to have board meetings. We wouldn't have a rules advisory committee, what we commonly call a RAC, because we're using this committee as a RAC, right? This is our stakeholders that are working out updates, if any, that are needed. So just know that there would be additional steps that would have to go in place. So your direction is to reconvene the committee, and you're looking at, you would like some additional representation from the cosmetic area, is that correct?
Mine was just a clarification on that we actually have enough representation because the list doesn't really tell me who owns what kind of business. So if the gentleman feels like we have good representation from that group, that's all I wanted to ensure.
Okay, and we're going to focus on, just so that we all know what we're going to be doing, trying to reach some kind of consensus. I understand that hours is not so important because I'm hearing that these multi-hour procedures are not so common when you're starting out, but numbers of procedures seems to be the focus, if I heard that correctly. So we're going to try to get some consensus on minimum, and you can always do more, right? Minimum number of procedures, and trying to get some clarification around the two different areas, like specialty areas of study. Did I capture that correctly?
Yes.
Tina, you have a thought? This is our licensing manager, Tina Russell.
I just wanted to add real quick. Sammy and I both have been here 29, 30 years. These curriculums have been in place the whole time I've been here. We've had tattoo and cosmetic tattooing for this whole time. I was just wondering, because it's never been a big deal, I was wondering, has something happened recently that has made people think that if you're in cosmetic school or tattoo school, that there's a problem with the way the instructors are teaching?
Hey, this is Paul Thomas. I've personally noticed that people that go to one school versus the other, they lack skill sets in the other avenue enough to where they are not doing like what I consider quality procedures just because they don't have the knowledge base. So if you're going to a cosmetics school for cosmetic tattooing, your ability to make clear, crisp images in illustrative tattooing doesn't seem to be there. And then someone that has done nothing but illustrative tattooing has no real knowledge of how to tattoo very delicate areas of the face or to apply tones and colors in a way that do not look like clown makeup. So I've seen a lot of bad examples of people that definitely were working outside their skill sets. And I think that's something that has been going on for a very long time with the licensing the way it has been.
This is Rebecca Flaum. I do think that a big part of the reason this came up was because of the attempts to revise the curriculum. As people suggested things that needed to be added and needed to be focused on in one area, the other area would say, well, we don't need to know that, and we shouldn't have to test our students in that. So I think a big part of the reason this is coming up now is just because of trying to revise the curriculum has made it clear how different the two things are.
Thank you, Rebecca. This is Ann again. What I gleaned from the conversation, if I can bring it down to the base, was that folks who were interested in being a cosmetic tattoo artist didn't want to take the time to learn the other part. Am I capturing that correctly? So instead of everyone getting a general education, it was the people learning who were arguing, well, I don't want to learn this because I want to do that. So it was mainly coming from the students, not complaints, as I understand it. We're not getting a lot of complaints. We're not getting a lot of things in the regulatory area. It was more of an interest issue. Sammy?
Yeah, I'm looking at the rule and it doesn't reference like a specific document and it's very generic. It just says 50 completed procedures. That could be eyebrows or that could be, a Mickey Mouse, and then 20 hours on needle bars, 20 hours on machines. It's very, very broad. Color and theory, design, art, and placement. I mean, all these things I think would go with anything, any of whether it be tattooing or permanent color. And then a subset of the bigger piece of this is that curriculum that everybody's looking at, which isn't even adopted here. And it could be, but this is really what's required by rule, is that these things be met here. And you do have 10 hours of discretionary hours. But yeah, there's nothing specific to like specific type of art. It's just design, art, and placement. So it could be eyebrows or it could be a tattoo on your arm. I mean, so definitely the rules broad enough. And then if you make the curriculum broad enough, then I think you have a win-win situation. Just based on whoever's teaching you, they're going to teach you needle bars, or they're going to teach you the art of the face and design and placement based on face tattooing, permanent color.
So this is Ann, Sammy. Great points. It would be up to the student to choose a school that aligned with their interest. Is that correct?
Correct.
Roxana Tyson, I'm sorry to interject in. I just want to address that. Well, I want to say that I think that a general education, even if a permanent makeup artist is not interested in doing tattooing, I do think that it's good for them to have that general knowledge. And I just want to bring up, in 2014, the permanent cosmetic industry had the microblading come in. And I just think that part of the reason we need to kind of look at permanent cosmetics more closely is just the art of microblading. It's so different from tattooing. And there's so many more risks, in my opinion, safety and infection risks with the microblading. I mean, we had a huge increase in hand tool usage. And just the technique itself needs to be addressed, I think, in the schools before people are licensed.
Okay. Anybody else on the board has any comments? All right, so I think what I will do is I will do some more outreach, make sure that we do have a lot of representation for cosmetic tattoo artists on the next committee. And then we will work on getting this finalized and bring it to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you,
Great
Derek.
job.
You got everything you needed?
Yep.
And this is Ann. If something occurs to you, we have other board visits. So if we have to revisit based on a thought you have, please bring that up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all so much for your feedback. We just really needed some help.
And for anybody that's on here that was on the committee, I just want to thank you for all of the work that you've done, and I will be reaching out to you again shortly.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Derek.
Okay. Chair, members of the board, this is Bob. The next item on the agenda is a presentation, but I don't think.
This is Ann. We had the Medicaid division, two analysts from the Medicaid division of Oregon Health Authority reached out to us concerning there was a law that passed that talked about compensating medical tattoos. People who need mastectomy, reconstruction, things like that. And they reached out to us in the fall because they wanted to talk to you, and then they disappeared. And they came back to us a few weeks ago and asked to do a presentation to get some information from experts. We put them on the agenda, and I'm not sure they're here. Are you seeing?
Anybody from OHA? OHA, Medicare. Medicaid.
Do not have any of those. Nope.
Okay. Well, apparently they're not with us today, so we can go on to public and interested parties feedback if that's acceptable to Bob and the chair.
Yes.
Okay. You have a script, Chair?
Which one am I reading right now?
Click an interested parties feedback, sir.
Okay, hold on. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. At this time, the Board of Electrolysis and Body Art Practitioners will hear public and interested parties' feedback. Public comment is limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what the board has statutory authority to regulate. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes and will not be allowed if they are disruptive to the board's conduct or its business. If you are called on to comment, HLO staff will request the public member to unmute themselves. The chairperson HLO reserves the right to end a person's comment early and have HLO staff mute the public member if the comment does not pertain to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what this board has statutory authority to regulate. Are there any members of the public that wish to comment? If so, please raise your hand or use Zoom raise hand feature and we'll wait in the back, wait to be acknowledged.
Share the spot. So we do have a list and
How many minutes?
I see 3. I see Aaron's on there and Christopher is on there. So I'll just go down the list if everybody doesn't mind, and go ahead and leave your hands up, Aaron and Christopher. Thank you. In the room, we have Christiane. So you want to introduce yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Christian Casares. I represented Apache Browse Beauty Academy here in Sela. We are a cosmetology and permanent makeup school. So talking about the curriculum, when I create the curriculum for tattoo for the program, my intention is only for permanent makeup. It has been really difficult for me to teach the both areas because I'm tattooing cosmetic tattoo for more than 10 years, and the permanent makeup changed a lot. The deepness of the skin to deposit the pigment is different. So different at the body tattoo. My curriculum said that I have the discretionary hours, just 10 in the curriculum, but I had the complete permanent makeup program. We are now a competency-based school. I think that 50 procedures are enough, but it could be better if you do a classification. For example, someone talking about it. It could be, for me, better if it's just for permanent makeup. At least 10 brows, 10 eyes, 10 lips. Now, in the medical tattoo, that's a huge difference because it's different from body tattoo and also it's different for permanent makeup. So the problem in the regular tattoo school is that when we work on the body, we go deeper and the needles are bigger. The configuration and the machine has different power. For permanent makeup, the technique is gentle, the skin of the face is thinner, so it's a huge difference. Since beginning of the theory should be changed because it's different, the thickness of the skin in the body and the face. Probably that's why there are a lot of complaints when they go and get the cosmetic tattoo in a regular body tattoo shop because they work the same thickness in the body. And the client feel a lot of pain and the tattoo turn green, black, even if they use a brown color. It's not the pigment, it's more the deepness they work and the speed they use. So we work different. I know, to be honest, I know a body tattoo artist. I teach him the tiny tattoos just to be able to teach the theory part to pass the test. Because I need to teach my students the theory on the curriculum and then the permanent makeup part. So I think it's really important to have 2 options. Probably in the aesthetics license, we have the regular aesthetics license practitioner, and then we have the advanced aesthetics license. It's just because with the basic, we cannot do something else that it's included on the advanced aesthetics. I think in the tattoo license should be really good if we do something like that, if you don't want to do, because Sarah said the definition for tattoo is the same. There is no difference between the definition. But when we practice body tattoo or cosmetic tattoo, there are a huge difference. So probably that could be not in the description hours to add wherever we want to teach the student extra from the regular curriculum. But the opportunity to discuss about another license, I think that's gonna be better for just for the cosmetic tattoo school. And the school decide if they want to add the tattoo license and the cosmetic tattoo. If you need someone for the commitment for permanent makeup, I'm available. Just let me know if you need help. If you need help also to create the curriculum, I already have my curriculum. Another thing. Sorry. Just the procedure. The 50, I think is enough, but just divide. Probably if the body tattoo, 10 at least 10 liner tattoo, 10 shaded tattoo, 10 solid tattoo, and decide the students if they go to do more shades or color tattoos or artistic tattoo. And if for the permanent makeup, at least 10 of each areas. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Anatomy, you didn't say if you wanted to comment or not.
Yeah, that's John. Yes.
Sorry, this is actually Sean Lanous. I'm just signed in under anatomy tattoo.
Oh, okay. Sean, yeah, he's here. He's the one, he's sent in a little while ago, the original one. Sean, go ahead, 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Sean Lanous. I've been tattooing for 18 years and 15 of those in Portland. I was recently part of the OHLA Tattoo Course Study Review Committee for the Tattoo School curriculum. The purpose of the committee was to review the current curriculum and requirements for obtaining a tattooing license in Oregon and to try and improve the knowledge base of the students. All of this was with the end goal of creating a safer environment for the clients getting tattooed as well as the tattooers. While digging into the curriculum, we kept running into the same roadblock. While cosmetic and artistic tattooing hold the same license, they are different applications. Both use needles and ink to permanently mark the skin, but that's where the similarities end. The techniques, application, and preparation are vastly different, but the current single license system requires that students of each discipline be taught the same curriculum. This would be if we considered a brain surgeon and a plastic surgeon the same because they both use scalpels to open people, or that driving a car and driving an 18-wheel semi-truck are the same because they both have engines and wheels. We know that even though these practices are similar in function, they are wildly different and require separate training and licenses. The law requires that current curriculum be taught to all students, regardless of what specialty they wish to pursue. The committee found that it was extremely difficult to be specific about adjusting the curriculum to meet the needs of both cosmetic and artistic tattooing schools without causing an undue burden to one or the other. The simplest solution to this is to split the license into two separate licenses, cosmetic tattooing and artistic tattooing. This way, each school can teach the necessary skills for their license and the curriculum can be tailored to fit that. There would be limited impact to the schools on themselves. During the review process, we spoke with cosmetic tattoo school owners. They told us that they were already going above and beyond what the current curriculum requires in order to teach the specifics of their craft. I feel that if we separate the licenses, it can streamline the entire schooling process and be able to better fine-tune the courses for the specific tattooing applications, resulting in better trained students, which leads to safer tattoos for all clients. While splitting the license improves the quality of the specific material taught, if in the future someone wanted to obtain both licenses, there could be a reciprocity pathway for students that have already obtained one of the licenses. This would enable a current license holder to take a portion of the tattoo course that pertains only to the specific license they're seeking. In effect, this would also generate revenue for the schools in the form of crossover students. In closing, I feel that when these laws and licenses were created, the scope of the industry was not fully formed. Now that both cosmetic and artistic tattooing have had time to blossom into their own crafts, the licensing needs to be updated to reflect that. We all want the safest and best outcomes for tattooers and clients, and this would help achieve that. I also believe that it would be helpful for the board members to attend the review committee meetings to keep everyone on the same page. Thank you.
Right on time. Thank you. And I think I keep hearing multiple license, different license. I'm just going to put it out there so nobody has to keep talking about it. If we need another license, that'll require a statutory change. Okay. And then so if that comes up for discussion later on, I'll go further. But at this point, multiple license requires statutory change. All right. Next on the list is Christopher Tullis.
Hi there. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Christopher Tullis. I'm from Southern Oregon Tattoo Academy. I've been tattooing since 2013, and I have been an instructor either in art or tattoo for about 25 years. By the way, Sean, that was awesome. I agree with everything that Sean said. I would say that the thing I think is difficult is we don't have a clear evaluative metric by which to measure the achievement of a student within the system. So tattooing is actually simple. And in my school, we separate it out. Being a tattooer and a tattoo artist is two different things. There are competencies that a tattooer can achieve to show that they can competently operate a tattoo machine, pull crisp lines. There are only 5 techniques in any tattoo. And so if the student can demonstrate solid line work, solid black and color pack, whip shade, brush shade, stipple shade, they have all the technical skills they need to be competent and proficient. When we get into the art, that becomes a subjective metric. So, for example, there are styles of tattoo like ignorant tattoo where the goal is to do silly looking kid drawings. So to try and evaluate a tattoo on its artistic merit becomes very difficult because it's very subjective. But you absolutely can evaluate the competency of the individual artist in the 5 basic skills that any tattoo or a fully rounded tattoo would require. I agree with the first speaker in that I don't think we need more procedures. I think if we really wanted to improve the school system and the quality of the student coming out, we should look at the evaluative metrics for the instructors themselves. Are they pedagogically trained? It's an entirely different skill set to teach than to tattoo. I know some world-class tattooers personally. They're the top of their game and they're terrible teachers, and they'll tell you that right out of the gate. So I don't think that the curriculum needs to be that the lecture hours need to necessarily be lengthened or that there need to be more procedures done. I think there need to be clearer metrics on what's expected and a standardization of the skills that are taught. Now, as for modernizing the curriculum, I absolutely agree with that. Nearly nobody uses coil tattoo machines anymore. And nobody builds their own needle bars. But I don't think that requires additional theory hours. I think it just requires a modernization of the existing program to bring it into this century. And I would also, once again, agree with Sean and with the first speaker. Permanent cosmetics and body art tattooing are significantly different. They use different machines, they use different needles, they use different ink, they use different color theory. So I do believe that those two should be separated, but I think we should, I think it would be helpful if we had a clear standard for what competency as a technician in tattooing looks like, what skills need to be demonstrated, and how we measure those skills. But that's not a matter of how many tattoos. If you have a bad teacher and you don't have a standard, then if you do a 50 bad tattoos or 150 bad tattoos, you're still a bad tattooer. There are basic set of skills that really aren't that difficult to learn. That
We're over time, Paul, or Chris, we're over time.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Next on the list is Khalees from Southern Oregon, I assume.
Yes, I thought I was going to comment. I'm not going to comment, except to say I agree with the things that have been said. Cosmetic and artistic are entirely different, but I also support what Chris is saying, that there are some really unique things that I don't think our curriculum addresses. So you guys are on point. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. E3KEH. You are muted. E3, you're muted. You have to take yourself off mute. There you go.
All right. Hello, can you hear me all right?
Yes. 3 minutes.
My name's Edward Kehoe. I own Monolith Tattoo Studio, Monolith Tattoo Academy, and Adored Tattoo Boutique here in Bend, Oregon. And, I do agree with the cosmetic and tattooing, but it was also kind of unrealistic to expect cosmetic tattooers to do 50 cosmetic practicals, especially in small towns like Bend, Oregon. I think the most important thing is to hold the schools more accountable, auditing the instructors or the quality of the schools. I think if the quality of the schooling was much better, then we wouldn't be having a lot of the discussions we're having today. So yeah, we need to kind of raise the standard of the schooling, not so much the curriculum, other than updating some of the older aspects of the quiz and what's expected. Yeah, a lot of machines are not coil based much anymore. There are people out there that love their coils, and I appreciate that, but we got to think forward, not move backwards or stay the same. I do hope to see some changes. I just really want to make sure that, people that work in the city have much bigger clientele to draw from than someone in a smaller town. So it's harder for a small town to get maybe 150 practicals versus the 50 practicals. But in the city, it's easier to do. So that's about all I can put in right now. Just hope you guys take that into consideration. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Next up is Aaron Smith.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Let me see if I can turn my camera on here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So my name's Aaron Smith, and I've been a tattoo owner or a tattoo school owner here in Oregon since 2009. And I was on the committee that was held. I just want to speak specifically to the impact that increasing the required number of procedures will have on student access and affordability. Right now, completing 50 procedures is already a significant lift for many students. Finding that many willing clients for a permanent procedure takes time and resources. If that number increases to 75 or 100, it will directly increase the time and cost required to complete the program, and that cost ultimately gets passed on to the student. This creates a real equity issue. Students with strong financial support systems or large personal networks will be able to meet those requirements more easily, but students who are lower income, working multiple jobs, or raising families will face much steeper barriers. We are also already seeing a steep decline in vocational rehabilitation and DHS funded students due to budget cuts. With fewer of those resources available, increasing requirements would limit further access at a time when students are already having fewer support options. And we've already seen what can happen when requirements increase beyond what the market can support. Piercing is a clear example. After procedure requirements were increased, access to training declined significantly. And today, as it was just mentioned, there are only 92 to 94 licensed piercers in the entire state, which reflects a real contraction of that workforce. My concern is that we would see a similar outcome here. This change doesn't just raise the standard, it narrows who is able to enter the profession. And lastly, if this committee is reconvened to continue discussing these changes, I would strongly encourage broader outreach to tattoo schools across the state to ensure more balanced representation and input for those that are directly impacted. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Frankie, you're on the list. Did you want to make a comment or anything?
No public comment for me.
Thank you. Ginger Murphy?
No, I concede to the rest of the.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Pamela Neighbors?
Sorry, took a minute to get all those buttons hit. I'm Pam Neighbors. I have Trillium Mink Academy in Tigard, Oregon. I also was on the committee regarding some of the updating of our current curriculum. And I've been tattooing since 1990. I do both sides as well as scalp and as well as post-surgical tattooing. So all the comments that are made here, I don't want to repeat. I think Christopher summed it up very, very well. And also Aaron. The increase in the numbers of procedures is not really going to help the situation that we've been discussing in committee. It's only going to penalize students and it's going to penalize the schools that are doing it right. So oversight seems to be one of our bigger issues. I think we all agree tattooing is something that is only learned by doing. And I think we need to keep our eyes on the fact that schooling is fundamental. And there's certain tasks that they need to show competency in before moving on. But we are not supposed to be graduating out 20-year veterans. And so I think we got to get back to what the basics are there and then move forward. The curriculum doesn't seem to be a problem. I teach both in my school. When we talk about having those pathways completely separated, I don't think there's really that much need as long as we have those discretionary hours and we revisit the current curriculum and take out some of the things that are no longer even pertain to the industry. I see huge value in our permanent makeup girls learning more about body. I know from my own experience that the best thing that ever happened to me after I was learning permanent makeup was to learn to tattoo. So I disagree with some of the comments. That doesn't mean it's the end all be all, but I think the number of procedures is going to be a real problem because of the costs. And Aaron touched on that. It's not only just tuition costs, it is actually lodging, meals, fuel, because most of our students are traveling 2 to 4 hours to come to school. So it becomes cost prohibitive. And I don't think that that's where we need to go. I think we just need to make sure that everyone is abiding by the rules and utilizing our curriculum to its advantage and not worrying about cranking out so many procedures, because I don't think that's going to remedy the situation that's been presented.
Okay.
That's
Thank
it.
you very much. Thank you. Ricardo Herrera.
Hello. It's Ricardo with Ozzy Tattoo in Eagle Point. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. I think most of the points that were made are pretty much kind of like what I feel is important. In my opinion, the biggest problem that we have as far as any like students or new artists coming into the picture that aren't really performing where they should be is that there's no oversight on schools. So I agree with maybe there should be an oversight committee, so people that actually look into schools. We always make sure there's 50 procedures, they're documented. I've never heard about anybody ever getting audited. So there's schools where you hear people graduated with like 3 tattoos. So how do we know they're going to do 100 if you raise, the amount of tattoos they have to do? So I think it's just really important to make sure that we're all held accountable to what's already established. And then from there, we can create all the updates that we require to make the program better.
Okay.
And that's all I can say.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your comment. Riley from Evergreen.
Good morning, guys. How you doing? It's Riley.
Hi, good morning. 3 minutes, Riley.
Copy that. Thank you very much. Listen, I just wanted to talk about a more human element. There's a lot of nuts and bolts mechanics flying around here, but I keep hearing a lot of other people that have programs around the state, and there's a very human element to these changes that are being made, and I want to make sure that's considered by the state, the board, and the chair. Extending the amount of procedures is definitely going to incur a cost of some kind that's going to have to be passed to the student. I think Aaron's absolutely right that, guys, a lot of these programs that work with the schools they're under some serious financial constraints right now, and that presents a real human element problem, And then a lot of the programs that are talking and speaking today are kind of out of the way and far out, and they don't have the resources of a metropolitan area like Eugene, Portland, Salem. The increase in procedures, I don't believe, is going to strike a better artist out there. Safety, public safety, the interest of the public, I say, kind of the focus that I have, as well as the student. I don't have a lot of apprentices coming into my program that are trying to be a rock star or Kat Von. They're making a serious change in their life to express themselves artistically. Some of them are being rehabilitated because they can't work the job that they worked for 15 years. They can't work in the mill anymore, and they have to do something else to feed their families. And, that goes along with the traditions of tattooing. I just wanted to appeal to the state, the board, and the chair to think of the human nature and the problems that this could cause. There's a gatekeeping act in tattooing. We, as artists and schools and shop owners, know that, and we don't want to increase that. We want to make it more open and available to people that love tattooing. That's all I got to say, guys. Thanks for giving me some time.
Thank you, Riley.
Thank you, Riley.
Okay, next up is Sheila Ahern from OALE. Sheila, are you out there?
He's here. She's just on mute.
Sheila, if you're trying to say something, you're muted.
Hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Oh, thank you. I'm a electrologist, and I was just going to listen, but I just thought I would comment on the procedure, what a procedure entails. When the electrologists had our last rule review, we noticed that it was sort of built into the new wording that there would be 100 procedures. And it came up in our discussion of, it doesn't seem fair for a 15-minute appointment to be considered a procedure in itself, where someone who does an hour, that's still considered a procedure. So someone in the state office, and Sammy might remember this, said there was a guideline for that, so that a shorter appointment and a longer appointment wouldn't just be considered one and the same thing. So that might make a difference in but your 50 procedures if you have someone who's doing a tiny little rose compared to a full sleeve. What if that would make a big difference on the amount of time spent during what you would consider a procedure. This is just food for thought. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Sheila.
Welcome.
And I do see Anatomy's hand up. Is it somebody different?
Hi, this is Olivia Britz. We're all just watching from the same computer, so. But I was on the committee for the curriculum recently too with Sean Lanous and Dan Gilstorf and Tama, who are also here with me. And I just wanted to offer some clarification for the metrics that we decided on in the committee, because I think a lot of what we're getting hung up on is actually the minutia of what we decided on that hasn't been given to the public or the board or anything. So if I can just read a couple things, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great, thank you. So the metric that we decided on at the committee with Derek, we all wanted to figure out what basic competency was. What does that actually mean? Derek said it was up to us as tattooers, as shop owners, as tattoo school owners, to figure that out. And we decided that that metric was hireable, that the basic competency, the lowest bar for tattoo schools is that their graduates should be hireable. So I just wanted that to kind of be out there because I know some people had questions about that. Most of us have been attending these meetings for about 8 years to raise these issues. So we have been trying for a very long time to get this far. So we're really happy to be here. As a committee, we did not opt to raise the hourly requirement very much, only 45 hours. For comparison, hairstylists, nails, massage, all of these other non-skin breaking barrier industries require triple the hours that we do. So raising it for 45 hours, we didn't feel like was very much. We actually cut hours in some areas and then added them in others. And so if you guys actually will go to the slide of the theory hours that's on the bottom of this agenda, you'll see that we cut the 20 hours of, or no, we added 20 hours of business operations. We cut, let's see, we cut, well, the yellow highlighted will show you like what we amended. So doubled Oregon laws and rules, added 5 hours to safety and infection control, added 10 hours to client services, doubled skin, actually decreased tattoo machines by 10 hours because we felt like, with our current climate, we actually don't need that much comprehension on coil machines. And from there, so we didn't alter it too much, but we felt like these changes were necessary to reflect the current state of tattooing. And with the number of procedures, we proposed a range of increased procedure amounts from 75 to 100 that we were hoping the board would weigh in on. So if it was increasing the number of procedures by 25, we felt that was reasonable. Ideally, we wanted it to be 100 because of the stakes. This is permanent art. You're breaking the skin barrier. So that was, we basically settled on just a range. So then we wanted the board to just kind of be the final say on that. To clarify, there are some issues that we need to take to HECC. So auditing schools, that's not something the HLO can do. So also instructors, if we want to evaluate teachers and instructors, they only need 2 years to be an instructor. There's no metric for that. They just sign a form. These are serious issues, both of these issues. So if we want to hold these schools accountable for what they're currently doing or what any proposed changes that we make, that can't happen at HLO. This is just something that we discussed with Derek last time. And we separated essentially a list of issues that we need to bring to the HECC separately. So, and these are very important. These are basically can make or break these tattoo schools being successful. If nobody gets audited, why are we making changes? If nobody gets audited, why are we doing all this deliberation right now? I feel like this is also just as important. So I just want to kind of put it out there. We're also interested in pursuing the separation of artistic versus cosmetic tattooing for the benefit of both. So if anyone else wants to be in contact with all of us, you can email us at reformorgantattooing@gmail.com. And we also have an Instagram called Reform Oregon Tattooing, where we post seminars and, you know, other pertinent information to the community of Oregon tattooers.
You're about time.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, excellent. Good timing. Thank you very much.
I don't see any other hands.
Okay.
Someone might want to.
Don't see any other hands. Is there somebody out there that may want to make a public comment that didn't get here in time to give the name to Chrissy? Seeing none, all right. Chair and the members of the board, we are, well, I'm rolling down my agenda here to get to the executive session, but we're going to move into executive session again. He actually read it.
Oh. Michelle?
Shelley. No, I didn't know there was one from Shelley.
Let's tell them.
Okay. Chair and members of the board, there is a written comment in the materials from Shelley Dax. And that looks like it's starts on page 68. You can read it at your leisure. And if you want to bring it up at another meeting, happy to accommodate that. So, Chair, if you are ready, we will move into the executive session that we have.
All right, the other one, got it. The Board of Electrolysis and
Well, I was asleep at the wheel, sorry.
All right.
All right, go ahead.
The Board of Electrolysis and Body Art Practitioners will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602F and ORS 676.590 for the purpose of considering information exempt from public disclosure at 11:10 a.m. on February 23rd, 2026. Representatives of the news media shall be allowed to attend the executive session. Audience members attending through Zoom will now be moved into a separate breakout room, and audience members attending in person are asked to leave the room booth for the duration of the executive session. Those authorized to attend the executive session, please continue to keep your phone muted and off. Are there any representatives of the news media on Zoom?
I am still here from
Okay.
OPP.
Thank you, Frankie.
So,
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, go ahead, Chair.
The Board of Electrolysis and Body Art Practitioners will now exit executive session and reconvening open at 12:05 p.m. No final decisions were made and no votes were taken in executive session. The public will be moved from the breakout room back to the end of the meeting, and representatives of the media may once again report all board discussions and actions.
All right. So this is Trampus, and in case numbers 25-11539, 25-11533, 25-11535, 25-11536, 25-11538. It is proposed that the board impose a $500 civil penalty, suspend the license until the licensee has come into compliance with continuing education hours, place on probation through the next renewal cycle, with the condition that the licensee must submit their continuing education documentation upon that renewal. Also, to assess up to $5,000 of the cost of any disciplinary proceedings, and give HLO the authority to negotiate and enter into a settlement.
This is Paul Thomas, so moved.
Chair, you cannot be the one.
Oh, sorry.
This is Nathan Morelli. I moved to, yes, I moved to the motion.
This is Rebecca Flom. I second that.
Thank you. Chair, can you please call roll?
Paul Thomas, affirm. Roxana Tyson,
Affirm.
Nathan Morelli,
Here.
affirm, or did I?
I'll affirm.
All right, John Dickerson.
He's out.
All right, Rebecca Flom,
Affirm.
Brian Gooden.
Affirm.
Okay.
Motion carries.
Okay.
In case number 25-11532, 25-11534, and 25-11537, it is proposed that we issue a notice to suspend the license 30 days after a final order, with the condition that or until the licensee is in compliance with CE requirements, continuing education requirements. Also, to assess the cost of any disciplinary proceeding up to $5,000, and give the authority to HLO to negotiate and enter into a settlement agreement.
We need a board member other than the chair to affirm or say so moved.
This is Rebecca Flom. So moved.
Roxana Tyson, I second that.
Okay. Paul Thomas here, I affirm. Roxana Tyson,
I affirm.
Nathan Morelli,
I affirm.
Rebecca Flom,
Affirm.
Brian Gooden.
I affirm.
All right, motion carried.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Chair and members of the board, the next item is other board business.
Okay.
This is Ann, if I may, Chair and members of the board, I had a point of clarification around the curriculum committee. After our committee meets and Derek needs some clarification, would you like us to bring this information to the next scheduled meeting? Or do you feel strongly enough that when we reach that point, we feel we have something to show you, we would have a special meeting? Do you have any feelings on that?
This is Paul Thomas. I think if we have something new or a resolution, I think we should have a meeting for that for sure.
Special meeting. Now, if we have a special meeting, that would be all we would be talking about. We wouldn't have reports. If a case popped up, that might be something that we can tuck into the corner. It would mainly be just that singular issue. So if you're okay with that, we could just put a pin in it.
Yeah.
Any other members have feelings about that? Rebecca or Roxana, Brian?
No, I think I agree with Paul.
Okay.
I
Support
agree.
it as well.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else? Chair, board members? Okay, if there's nothing else, looks like that was the last thing on the agenda. So Chair, if you want to adjourn the meeting.
Sure. The Board of Electrolysis and Body Art Practitioners meeting is adjourned at 12:11 p.m.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.
Thanks, guys.